Okay, this presentation here is going to be about creating a motion tween in Flash and some of the options you have available. I always create new Flash file ActionScript 3.0. And at this point, we've got a couple things here on my layout. Your layout might look a little different. We've got, I'm rearranging it. On the top, I have the timeline, and under, I have the scene. This is a workspace titled Classic. Okay, so this is the way the older Flash used to have it. What I like about it, though, is we got our stage in the center, we got our tools on the left, timeline along the top, we got a properties window and a library here. So now there are some guidelines on motion tweens. On a motion tween, you can only have one symbol at a time on any given layer. So if you want to animate two things happening at the same time, you're going to need a second layer. So you can always create new layers by clicking on the little new layer icon. So I'm going to start with layer 1, layer 2. You could double click a layer and rename it. So you could, for example, add a background. And so I'm going to name it background so I know that's the background layer. And I can find a picture online that gives me a background. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a picture. I'm going to do a Google image search. And then sky. Very basic. Okay, so I'm going to have something happen in the background with the sky back there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I think I'll just click this one. It's a very large image. I'm going to click View Image, and I'm just going to copy and paste it in. I'm going to copy the image, go into Flash, right-click, and paste. First thing you probably notice is this image is way larger than the stage. So one of the things you should do is you should be aware of how big the stage is. This is 550 by 400. So I really don't need to get a picture that large. So I'm going to find one a little smaller. So you go to sky, and we're looking about 500 pixels wide. We don't need one that big. So I'm just going to take a look at some of these other pictures, see the size. They're all quite large. I'm going to change this to search tools, size. We're going to choose medium and see what we get. 1280. So even these are still pretty big. Kind of like this one. I'm just going to grab it. It's a little smaller. We're saving some size here. Don't forget you want to click View Image in a Google search. I'm going to copy the image, go into Flash, right-click, and paste. It is bigger than the stage, but not by as much. Actually move the sun out of the way. And I'm going to use the free transform tool to resize it. My recommendation on free transform tool is you want to hold down Shift as you resize. And you'll notice as I'm resizing, it's a little bit bigger than the image, or a little bit bigger than the background picture I had. So I'm just going to leave it like that, leave it as it is, and that's my background. And I'm going to lock this layer by clicking on the little dot under the lock. At this point, I have a background, and I can't accidentally move it or anything. Another technique you might want to try sometime is get a really wide panorama and animate the background moving. But we'll do that at a later time. All right, what I want to do is let's have some airplanes flying around. So I'm going to animate an airplane. Now, let me just show you some examples of what you can do. You can do an image search for airplanes, for example. So I'm going to write on here, airplane. I'm going to hit enter. And we get all these different pictures, and I want to choose small because I really don't need, actually I guess it doesn't have small. So I'll just keep it at medium for now and use some of the pictures that I see. And you'll see a lot of these have a lot of detail behind them. You want to get a good picture that doesn't have detail. Okay, but there's a problem with that. So we're going to find one airplane here. Let's try one that has a picture, but there we go. I'm going to try this picture here. And I'm not going to even, I'm not even going to find the full size. I'm going to get this smaller image, and I'm just going to right-click and choose Copy Image. And I'm going to put it in Flash. Right-click, paste, and we have a problem. We have this white background we want to get rid of. Okay, so that's not ideal. And you'll notice many of the pictures I couldn't use anyway. So what I like to do is use clip art. So I'm going to just get Microsoft PowerPoint. I'm going to click on Insert. I'm going to choose clip art, and I'm going to choose Plain. Results should be, and I like to just do illustrations. And I'm going to check include office.com content. I'm going to click on go, and I'm going to look at some airplanes here. And let's try this one, for example. I click it. Notice it's nice and small, so I'm just going to copy this, paste it into Flash. Paste. Because it's clip art, a lot of times it won't have a background on it. And there's my airplane now. And notice I don't have a white box around it. So I can delete the other airplane, and this might be a good one to animate. Okay? So let's just go ahead and animate the clip art. The other thing you could do, though, is when you do an image search, you can try this. Add this one little piece here. Add file type PNG. And a lot of times PNG images have transparency in them. And some of these you can actually copy, although you should click it and view the actual image itself and see if it has transparency or not. So sometimes you can just copy the image and drop it in. And you see that because it's a PNG, I drop it in, and it does have that transparency. So it's file type PNG. Now we've got our airplane. Let's animate it. I want to position it. I'm going to have it off the stage. So I'm going to move it off the stage. In fact, I'm going to hide my background so I can see where the stage is. You see what I did? I just clicked under the eyeball. If I want to see it, I click it. There it is. If I want to hide it, there it is. So I'm going to have this fly across the stage. So the first step we did is we got our image. Next thing we want to do is turn this into a symbol. If we don't convert it to a symbol, we're not going to get all the animation techniques we can have. So I'm going to convert it to a symbol. I'm going to choose graphic, but I'm going to give it a name. Plain. Just keep it generic, keep it simple. If I'm going to have more than one plane and different types, I might change the name to be more specific. Registration point, don't worry about that. I just leave it as default. If you wanted to animate it, you could turn it into a movie clip, but we're just going to keep it a graphic. So it's a graphic now. It's in our library. If I click on the library here, I can see it plain. So now that it's an actual symbol, and I can tell it's a symbol in the library by this little icon here, what I can do now is animate it. So in order to create a motion tween, you just right-click on the keyframe. That's the dot there, and choose Create Motion Tween. Okay? Now, notice what happens here. This thing is called the scrubber, and that tells us where we are in the animation. And it's telling us we're at the 25th frame. So watch what I do. I'm just going to take my airplane and drag it across opposite of the stage. Notice there's a line now. That's the path that my airplane's going to follow. If I hit Enter, watch what happens. See that? Just animates across. Now, the interesting thing about a motion tween is you have a lot of options here. You can, for example, get your selection tool, hover near the line, and you see how your selection tool has a little curve point here? You can actually curve that line, and now it's going to follow the path of the line. Okay, of course, now this whole line is up above the stage, so that's probably not a good place to put it. So maybe I'll just adjust it the other way. And we go back to the beginning, slide it around. Now, if we want it to sort of rotate along the path, one of the things that we're going to need to do So we're going to need to make sure it's pointing in the direction the arrow is going at the beginning and at the end, and it will automatically rotate. For that, we need the free transform tool. Click on the free transform tool or type the letter Q. Go outside of the point and rotate it like there. See that? Then drag your scrubber to the other end. Let's move over here. And now we're going to rotate it so it's, whoop, click it again, rotate it. Now it's sort of pointing in the direction that the arrow is pointing now, up. We move it back. Let's center our stage, drag back and forth. And we can see that airplane is sort of flying in the path on the direction it goes. Get the tool here, unhide my background, and there's one last problem we have to deal with. And that is our background disappears after frame 1. You see these? These are all empty frames. And we've locked it, but watch what I can do. I can click on the last frame and insert a frame, and now my background's there. And my animation is pretty much ready to go. I can hit enter to test it, or better yet, let's publish this. And let's do publish preview, and let's actually see what it looks like on a web page. So I click HTML, and you're going to find the way that it animates is a little different. Opens up our browser. Wait for a moment, and then it will start animating.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there's our animation. Now you're going to notice that it's a looping animation, and you will see that the web page, you can see exactly where the animation ends and begins. See how it starts? It starts off of the stage, goes across through there.